in many ways, I feel like I'm already taking from existing work and interpolating it myself and recombining it and creating my own montages and references based on existing work and existing stories. So getting an existing script is just another strange manifestation of something that's not entirely different. Even, of course, when you're developing it and writing it yourself, images and cinematic references are, if not already being conjured in your mind, they're literally informing the ideas. It's a mapping, it's a sort of a geographical narrative that that begins before I even get there. In this case, it started with Sam Lysenko, my production designer. We had just developed another project that didn't end up happening. And I was having such a wonderful time with Sam. And when we started to think about Savannah and realizing if we were going to shoot in the fall, we'd have to have a change of locale because there was no way we could find any city that could play as Camden, Maine, originally conceived in the script, that we could afford to shoot for Camden, Maine. And I had just been to Savannah for the Savannah Film Festival with Velvet Underground, and I'd been there before. And we started to look at photos, but then we were looking at the map and thinking, Gracie can't live in downtown historic Savannah. But there was this community 20 minutes away, Tybee Island, on the beach. And we're like, that's interesting. A beach community. What would that be like, right? So it was all sort of, speculative until we landed there in August. And then we started to go like, yeah. And then going to weird restaurants and local places that were like not scripted. It started to lay in this narrative underpinning for this new world that we had generated for the story. Charles, he was just part of a series of auditions that we collected. And both of us looked at his still and thought, oh no, he's too gorgeous, he's too glamorous, it's not exactly what we pictured for Joe. And then we just saw what he did on his audition. And again, I just brought it up because the roots started to grow just in looking at his audition tape. And they started to explain to me things about this character that I was almost not ready to fully address. It was all happening very quickly too, the whole process. But Charles's understanding of the character, instincts of the character, I saw both the present Joe and I saw the past Joe in this actor, and made this film deeper and more, comprehensive and rich. With this project with Natalie Portman, okay, I could see that the themes in the film and the central female characters made her think of me. But she and I had also had a prior communication about a project years ago. So the seed was already planted with the idea, the excitement, the sort of opportunity of working with Natalie. We found something in the other that was fully manifest, even that early in both of our respective careers. And of course, I had this very specific and very different kind of script than my debut feature film, Poison, which she read. And it had this character who was sort of a conceptual exercise or excitement for me conceptually to kind of make a kind of blurred out head, a missing space. I had images for it, I had a way, but at the core there was something missing. And it was the human part of it, the particularity of what Julianne brought in voice and in a kind of transparent, a translucence in her skin, like you could see right through it, So it was just one of those moments of finding the other half of yourself. As soon as the sort of motif of how to shoot the mirror scene started to take root, and become a kind of through line in the visual language of the movie, I was going to commit to it for every scene where a mirror played. Beginning with the very first scene in Elizabeth in the inn, when she's looking through the tabloid photos and her research that she's brought with her on Gracie. And then she simply just looks into the lens. And I remember that people would say, that's really interesting, but you probably need to establish where the mirror is in the room. And I was like, I don't think you do. I think the actors are going to let us know what's happening, you know? And then even if there's a moment of like, wait, they just looked at the lens, I like that idea. You know, I thought people would look at May December and be like, wow, really interesting film at best. Wow, Todd, cool, you know, I love those long, extended shots where they're looking into the lens of the camera. It really made me think, and I got kind of restless in my seat, and you know, I was thinking of Bergman and Godard and, you know, whatever. And the crazy thing, as the film has started to be seen, is no one even mentions it. And the austerity and how the fact that we're holding these shots for sometimes 7 minutes long, you know, pages of dialogue. It's the performances and the subject matter and the tone and the music and all these things that are sort of conjoining, but you can't hold a shot that long without these kind of actors in the frame. Now, the actors, I should just say, when they were talking about it at Cannes, with the exception of the dress shop scene, the bridal shop scene, every time we were shooting them in the mirror, there was no mirror. So they were just looking at the lens of the camera, each for themselves. And then we had to mark off the lens of the camera, respectively left and right of the lens. That would be Julianne's view of Natalie in the reflection and Natalie's view of Julianne in the reflection. So that entire sense was completely constructed by the performances without any mirror for them to play off of. I watched a few of my films in Pompidou, which I really had not seen since I'd made them. And the one that just that I was most taken with was I'm Not There. I just was. It's a really interesting, unique thing, and I'm really proud of that film.